Parshas Bo. This week's Parsha contains the wind up to the first mitzvah in the Torah. It also contains the conclusion of the Makos, of the 10 plagues. And there's a little, almost a snippet, 2 verses, 2 psukim, that are tucked away in here. And they seem to be out of place. They follow a discussion, declaration, confrontation that Moshe Rabbeinu has with Pharaoh, and he describes what's going to happen with this, the killing of the firstborn. And that section ends with Vayetze me'im Paro b'chor yaf, and Moshe stormed out of the audience with Pharaoh. That's Perek Yud Aleph, Pasuk Ches. That's 11:8, where it says that Moshe stormed out, and then 2 verses later, the Torah begins describing the mitzvahs of Kiddush HaChodesh, of sanctifying the new moon, designating the calendar, taking the Korban Pesach, the Pesach offering. But sandwiched in between there are 2 verses. This is at the end of Perek Yud Aleph. I'm going to show it to you here. Psukim Tes and Yud. That's 9 and 10. Look here, there's white space here and white space here. It's all 2 verses. And listen to what these verses say. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, this is Pasuk Tes, verse 9. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, lo yishma lechem Paro. Hashem says to Moshe, Paro won't listen to you. L'ma'an revos mofsai be'eretz Mitzrayim, so that I may increase, multiply my signs, my wonders in the land of Egypt. And then the next verse, Pasuk Yud. U'Moshe v'Aharon also es kol mofsimo elu lifnei Paro. And Moshe and Aaron did all of these wonders before Paro. Vaychazek Hashem es leif Paro v'lo shilach es b'nei Yisrael me'eretzo. And the Almighty hardened Paro's heart, and he didn't send the children of Israel out of his land. What's this doing here? It seems to be not only a needless interruption, but it also appears to be out of place. I mean, Hashem is telling them, Paro's not going to listen to you. And Moshe and Aaron did all the wonders before Pharaoh. Well, that already happened. So what's going on? Why is it here? And why is it here? What's it telling us? So there are those who say that it's out of order. There are those who say that it's a recapitulation. There are those who even say that, in essence, Hashem said this after every confrontation that Moshe had. Lo yishma lechem Paro. Don't worry about it. Paro's not going to listen, but I'm using him in order to demonstrate my prowess, says Hashem. But there could be something else going on, because the following passage, which talks about the new month and talks about the Paschal offering, it says, Mishchu ukchu lachem tzom. It says, after describing all of the requirements for Pesach, and you can't eat chametz, and you have to bring the Paschal offering, the Korban Pesach, and then in Chaf Aleph, in verse 21, that's Yud Beis Chaf Aleph, that's 12:21, the verse says, Vayikra Moshe l'chol ziknei Yisrael, vayomer alehem, Mishchu ukchu lachem tzom l'mishpachoseim v'shachatu Pesach. Moshe called to all of the elders, and he said to them, pull and take, or draw, mishchu, draw and take for yourselves, meaning everybody in the nation, a lamb for their families, and you should slaughter it for the offering. So what is that about? So there are Chazal who say that mishchu, it could have just said k'chulachem, so take it. What's mishchu? Draw. It means remove. You pull your hand away from what? From avodah zarah, from serving false gods, and serve the real God. Now we know that the children of Israel had been influenced by the surrounding environment, by the culture of the Egyptians, which is why specifically, according to Chazal, according to the sages, that the requirement of the Korban Pesach, specifically the animal, or one of the animals that the Egyptians served as a way of rejecting the Avodah Zarah. But we even know that at Kriyas Yamsuf, at the splitting of the sea, the Malachei Hasharis, the ministering angel, said, what's going on? Halolo Avodah Zarah of the Avodah Zarah, Valolo of the Avodah Zarah. Both the Egyptians and the Jews have been worshippers of false gods. So why are you preferring one over the other? We're not getting into that right now, but we see that there is a received tradition that the children of Israel had succumbed to the influence of their environment. According to tradition, they were on the 49th level of Tumah, the 49th level of defilement, And if Hashem hadn't telescoped the process of taking them out, that they might have become totally lost in Egypt. So we know that they also, the children of Israel, were also steeped in this repugnant feature of the alien culture. So what about these two verses? Well, so why are you telling me now? Well, the questions really are, why are you telling me now that Pharaoh won't listen? And don't we already know that Moshe and Aaron performed the miracle? So Rashi implicitly acknowledges these questions because he answers that they're restated here to flow into the next parsha, which is the parsha about Pesach. So how does Rashi explain? How does Rashi's explanation answer the questions? So Rav Schwab observes that as we mentioned, that the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, had succumbed to idol worship. And then we need to go back to the purposes of the makos, of the plagues. According to the Mechilta, when it says, V'lo shamu al Moshe, mikotze ruach ume'avodah kasha, the Mechilta, which is one of the compilations of the Medrash, says that avodah kasha, they didn't listen to Moshe because of shortened spirit and hard work. The Mechilta says that hard work implies avodah kasha, which is avodah zarah, which is pagan worship. So we're getting it left and right that the children of Israel in Egypt really had sunk to a low level. So what was going on? How is it? You could ask, how is it that they suddenly dropped it and they started serving Hashem? You could say, well, they saw the miracles. Well, the Egyptians saw the miracles too. What was going on with them? Evidently, the Egyptians, or at least Pharaoh, resisted any influence, any opportunity to change, to improve their ways. Who was the audience for the makos? Who was the audience for the plagues? Well, we know that there are the stated reasons for the makos are, and we have in Perek Chaf, Pasuk Vav, Laman Teda Ki Ein Kashem Elokeinu, so that you should know that there is the plagues are brought, so that you should know that there is none other like Hashem. And then in Ches Yud Ches, that's 8:18, Laman Teda Ki Ein Kashem Elokeinu, similar message, so that you should know that there is none other like Hashem. In Ches Yud Ches, that's 8:18, Laman Teda Ki Ani Hashem B'Kerev Haaretz, said, I am Hashem in the midst of the land. In Perek Tes, Pasuk Yudalid, Ba'avur Teda Ki Ein Kamoni B'Chol Haaretz, that you should know that there is none like me in all of the land. To whom were these messages directed? The obvious audience here is the Egyptians, is Mitzrayim. But the less obvious audience, but a very important and crucial audience, is the Bnei Yisrael themselves. The message failed, in a manner of speaking, when it comes to the Egyptians. But it did not fail when it comes to the children of Israel. The Navi Yeshaya says, when he's describing an aspect of what happened in Egypt and the redemption from Egypt, the verse reads as follows. This is Perek Yutes Pasuk Chaf Beis. It's 1922 in Yeshaya. It says, "V'nagaf Hashem es Mitzrayim nagof v'rafo." That Hashem smote Egypt a striking and a healing. The Zohar there, Rav Shimon quotes this. The Zohar says the negef, the striking, is against the children of Israel. The healing is of the Bnei Yisrael. And he cites evidence for this from our parsha in Pasuk Chaf, Perek Yud Beis, Pasuk Chaf Ches, after talking about the tradition that we must pass on from generation to generation through the observance of the Korban Pesach, of the Pesach offering. It then says, right after the command, it says, Vayelchu v'yasu b'nei Yisrael, and the children of Israel went and they did, Ka'asher tziva Hashem es Moshe v'Aaron, kenosu, like Hashem commanded Moshe and Aaron. That's what they did. Question is, but wait a second, it wasn't Pesach yet. It was HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. It was the first of Nisan. You have 15 days to go. What does it mean, Vayelchu? Vayelchu means they accepted upon themselves. They went. They left the Avodah Zarah. They left the pagan worship. And they dedicated themselves to doing what Moshe told them. No longer were they v'lo shamu Moshe me'avodah mikotze ruach me'avodah kasha. They no longer were in the category of not listening to Moshe anymore. The makos did their work. The makos slowly, step by step, 10 plagues, 10 steps, until they finally got to the point where they could see clearly. In fact, we see that in the perhaps metaphorically as well as literally, that when the plague of darkness hits Egypt, it says, and for all of the children of Israel there was light in their dwelling places. And light meant physical light, the energy that illuminated, but it also can refer to enlightenment, the or of the Torah, the oraisa, the source of light, which is the Torah. In other words, although the principal audience, or the most obvious audience for the plagues, seemed not to respond positively to the treatment, if you will, to the therapy of the plagues, the Bnei Yisrael, who were not smitten by the plagues, but they observed them, they were affected. Not all of them, but many of them, enough of them so that they could start the tradition and carry on the tradition. Sometimes when big things happen which carry a big message, many people don't listen. Many people remain unaffected, but the few who do are changed. And that change can be profound, not only for them, but for everyone around them. In the case of the Bnei Yisrael, ultimately, they became a monotheistic nation. And they influenced, if you listen to the Rambam, they influenced the great religions to be monotheistic. And this all came from this little family that went down to Egypt, became like the Egyptians in the corruption of their spirituality, but because of the demonstration of Hashem's power, they paid attention and they were redeemed. Have a good Shabbos.